Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're going to talk about something you see a million times a day online, but probably don't give a second thought to: the call to action. We're going to break down why this little tiny prompt is, seriously, maybe the most powerful tool on the entire internet for turning someone who's just browsing into an actual paying customer. So let me just ask you this straight up. What is the most important button on the internet? I mean, you might think it's the like button or maybe the share button. And yeah, those are big. But there's another kind of button, one that businesses and creators are absolutely obsessed with. It's the one that actually makes you do something. And the answer is the call to action, or as you'll hear it called all the time, the CTA. For so many amazing websites out there, this is the piece they're missing. It's literally the engine that takes someone who's just kind of clicking around and turns them into a subscriber, a follower, or a customer. Without it, you're just a pretty storefront with no door. Okay, so what is it exactly? A call to action is just a prompt, right? It's designed to get you to do something right now. And you know 'em, it's the buy now button, it's the subscribe box, it's that learn more link. They're just simple, direct instructions telling you what your next move should be. I love this analogy because it's so perfect. Seriously, picture walking into the most beautiful store you've ever seen. Everything is laid out perfectly, the lighting's amazing, but there's no cash register. There's no one to help you. You can look at all this great stuff, but you can't actually buy anything. That is exactly what a website is like without a good, clear call to action. It's all sizzle and no steak. So obviously you need one, but how do you build one that actually works? It's definitely not about just, slapping a button on your page and calling it a day. There's a real strategy to this. And we're going to walk through a really simple but super powerful framework I'm calling the 4 CTA keys. These 4 pillars, this is basically your roadmap. Think of it like a checklist. First, you've got copy. What words are you using to make someone want to click? Second, design. What does it look like, and does it even catch your eye? Third is placement. Is it in the right spot? And finally, this one's a little more subtle: intent. Are you asking for something that the visitor is actually ready to do? We're going to break down every single one of these. All right, let's kick things off with the first 2 pillars, the parts of your CTA you actually see and read. We're talking about the words and the visuals. Getting the copy and the design right is this perfect mix of art and science, and it's absolutely your first hurdle to getting that click. So for your copy, the words you choose matter a lot. You really want to start with a strong action verb. Not just our stuff, but shop now. Not more info, but learn more. Verbs get people moving. Then you can pour a little gasoline on that fire by creating urgency. The phrases, limited time offer, sale ends tonight. That all triggers that fear of missing out, that FOMO, that pushes us to make a decision now instead of later. Now, let's talk about design. And this is a huge mental shift you have to make. Your goal is not to make your button pretty. Your goal is to make it impossible to miss. It needs to literally jump off the page and pull the user's eye right to it. So you really have 2 main options here, right? A button or a simple text link. Our brains are just wired to notice contained shapes and bold colors, which is why a button almost always wins. A text link can just get lost in all the other words. But the number 1 rule here, no matter what, is contrast. Just think about Netflix for a second. That bright red button on that dark background, you cannot miss it. That is not an accident. That is design with a purpose. Okay, so we've covered what your CTA says and what it looks like. Now let's tackle the last 2 keys: where you put it and why you're even asking in the first place. Getting the placement and purpose right is the difference between being a helpful guide and just being an annoying pop-up. I mean, think about the last time you bought something on Amazon. Did you ever have to hunt for the buy now button? Of course not. It's always in that prominent, predictable spot, right there, waiting for you. That's the incredible power of good placement. You want to make it ridiculously easy for the user to find the one thing you want them to do. And if you need some hard data to convince you, this is just staggering. One study found that CTAs placed above the fold, that just means you can see it without scrolling, perform 317% better. Let that sink in. Just by moving a button, you could triple your results. It's a number that's just too big to ignore. And finally, we have intent. This is all about matching your ask to your user's mindset. Look, someone who just landed on your site for the very first time, they're probably not ready to buy now. They're just exploring, right? They're at the top of the funnel. So for them, you use a softer CTA, something like learn more or explore our styles. But for someone who's a return customer with an item in their cart, they're at the bottom of the funnel. They're ready. That's when you hit them with a direct buy now. You've got to meet people where they are. Okay, so we've covered copy, design, placement, and intent. And right about now, you're probably thinking, great, just tell me the perfect words and the perfect color to use. Well, that brings us to our final and maybe most surprising rule for creating the perfect call to action. You know, for years, people in marketing have tried to find that one magic formula. There was actually a time when everybody was convinced that a bob, a big orange button, was the secret weapon. People literally changed all their buttons to orange and just waited for the sales to roll in. But here's the thing. It wasn't a magic bullet. It worked great for some, and it did absolutely nothing for others. So if it's not a big orange button, then what is the secret? What's the one strategy that works every single time? And here it is, probably the most boring, but also the most powerful secret in all of marketing. Test everything. There is no universal best color or best phrase. I mean, look at this. You might think buy now is way more direct and would work better. But in this test, just changing the words to get it today boosted clicks by 25%. You would never ever know that unless you tried it. The only way to find out what works for your audience on your site is to test. Test the colors, test the words, test where you put it. Let your users tell you what works. So yeah, the call to action. It's this fascinating mix of psychology, design, and just plain data. It really is the small hinge that swings a very, very big door. And that leaves me with one last thing for you to chew on. What's the best or the most clever or maybe even the weirdest call to action you've ever seen that actually made you click? Thanks for watching.